Hello?
What's up? Hey, OIP, pick up the phone. Hello? What's up? Yo, DaVinci Resolve 19.1 is out. Make a video about that, would you? Come on.
What? Resolve 19.1 is out? That's crazy. I gotta go make a video about this. All right, see you guys later. That's right, DaVinci Resolve 19.1 is out. We are covering some of the hot new things in Resolve 19 here. We're gonna go through a lot of stuff here, so let's just jump right into Resolve. Grab your coffee, mug, your tumbler, and let's jump into Resolve. Let's go. So Resolve 19.1, I'm in the studio version here. We've got a ton of new awesome updates here, and we're just gonna run through a whole bunch, starting with the edit page. Why? Because I like the edit page, and that's where I do most of my work. So let's jump into the edit page here in DaVinci Resolve 19.1. Now, the first thing on the list here is the ability to sync bins from file folders. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up my media pool. So let's say I've got a folder on my hard drive. We got one here called Tests Sync. I have 3 items in it. I'm gonna drag and drop the bin in, and there's 3 items in there. But let's say, for example, I come over and I add in some more files to that test sync folder on my hard drive. Just gonna paste a couple more audio files in there. Well, back in DaVinci Resolve, I could just right click on this test sync folder. I'm gonna say automatically resync media files, and Resolve is gonna take a look in that folder and it should add everything in just like that. Super easy, especially when it comes to things like power bins. If you're dumping in a lot of music like I do, check this out. A lot of power bins here. I've got all kinds of music, different folders, for example. Let's jump into art list here. What I could do is just right click on here and say automatically resync media files. I don't have to drag and drop them in every time. Really handy. I like that feature a lot. Nice job, Blackmagic. Next up, the ability to export multiple timelines here in DaVinci Resolve. So if I go to my smart bins, select my timelines, let's see, I can select all these guys, right click, go to timelines, export, and right here we have DaVinci Resolve timeline files. You can export out as many as you want, makes it quick and easy if you need to export multiple files at one time. Another one that's really handy here in the media pool of our edit page is that whatever folder you're in, when you close down DaVinci Resolve, it's gonna remember that when you open Resolve back up. It's not gonna default to the top master bin or whichever bin it might default to. It's gonna actually open up with the bin open that you had open when you last closed DaVinci Resolve. So again, just saves you a few clicks. One of those time-saving things that Blackmagic was like, I'm gonna just throw that in there as a little bonus for you. So that works out pretty good. Another item here is when you have something like all of my audio files here, I wanna sort them by maybe name or format or time. When I select this, right, you can click on the top of the column here and it's gonna sort that for you, but it didn't always stay sorted in the order that you might have picked, right? If I came over and maybe selected, the duration and I want it like that, it didn't always stay like that. Well, now in version 19.1, whatever order you sort anything in, when it comes to these different, menus that you've got available to you, which if you right click up here too, you've got a whole ton of them, or you can create your own, it's gonna save that for you and keep everything sorted like that. And I know for me, that's really helpful because I'm always sorting things in different ways depending on what I'm looking for, especially when it comes to something like my music. I know I need, a song that's about a minute long or so. It makes it real easy for me to find that stuff. A new feature when it comes to smart bins here is that you can use a smart bin or smart filter option to filter media from a specific bin. So if you've got one bin you want to work with in your media pool, you can go in and use smart bins and filter smart filters in just that one bin. So pretty handy, and that might come in useful if you use specific bins and you want to find specific things inside those bins. Another update here is the ability to relink media pool clips from all tabs. So wherever you've got, different forms of media that you might be using, we can relink them from all pages. A cool one here that I like is if you create a template, right? Kind of like if you've seen Mr. Alex Tech talking about setting up a template. So all you got to do is click on that particular template. It opens in Resolve. You've got like a template to get started with in Resolve for your project. It will now include empty bins. So if you want to set up a whole bin structure in that template, boom, you're going to be good to go. You could just click on that template file, open it up in Resolve, and you're off and running. You've got your bins already created. So that's a time-saving tool right there that's going to come in really handy. Another handy feature here is the updated changing of the time code for multicam clips and compound clips, changing that to start at, I believe it starts at 0, because you can open each one of those things as its own timeline, and by default, timelines start at, I think it's an hour in DaVinci Resolve, unless you change that and update that. So this will change the start time code for multicam clips and compound clips, so you don't have to worry about doing that. So that's a nice little feature that they added in there. Let's get started taking a look at some new Fusion titles, effects, and generators in the effects panel. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up my effects panel here. We've got titles, and I can see right here, Circus, that's a new one. Deep, I think that's a new one. Blueprints, that's a new one. Black border, gradient background here. We've got a bunch of new ones here. Glass, metallic steel. We've got POW here. A lot of good stuff they added in. Just got to get in, play with some of these. We've got slime right here. We've got a little speed. Little statement, some tangerine, tasteful. We've got a whole bunch of different titles in here, which is really nice. I like that they're just starting to include some of this stuff so you don't have to go out and buy extra, third-party stuff to put in Resolve. They're just giving you tons of great stuff to work with right from the beginning here, right? So you pick up Studio. Now, I don't know if all these are studio free, if they come in both, or how it all kind of plays out here, but Studio version is going to give you everything, and they just keep making it more and more beneficial for you to get the Studio version by just adding more and more stuff in there. Let's check out the generators. Now, we've already got all these cool different wipes and text things. Here we've got, stage curtains, we've got squares, radial lines, disc wall. There's a lot, hexagon glow, that's kind of cool. I like that. We've got honeycomb, all kinds of different cool stuff in here. Cartoon cloud sky, The Simpsons, right? Is that not The Simpsons? Come on. Wow, a lot of good stuff in here. This is great. Tech vintage textures. I think that one was already there. But lots of good stuff in there that you get now as part of Resolve as 19.1. I'm digging that, and I'm going to be digging into some of those a little bit more later. And let's check the effects right here. What else do we have? What jumps out at me as brand new? Outer stroke. That looks like a new one, I believe. What else might be new in here? The cross, I think we've always had here, the graphic cross. I think the shape overlay, maybe that's a new one. I'm not 100% sure on that. The night vision, I feel like that might be new, maybe not. Maybe that one's been there. I don't know, I don't use these too often, so I'm not as familiar with which ones of these might be new. But you've got a bunch of new titles, effects, and generators right here in your effects library. And if you're trying to find a certain effect, you can now use the category. Let's see if we go search, and let's just say we wanted color. And you see it'll show Resolve color, and then we can kind of search through there. So just an easier way to kind of search for the things you might be looking for when it comes to your effects. An improved marker index. So let's just say I add some markers on my timeline here. Gonna add in a few. Let's open up our index. And now we can see we've got our markers right here, our start points, our end points, all that stuff has pretty much always been there. But let's go to the edit index section here. And I'm not sure if anything changed in here, but it does say that the markers are improved. Now, what I use this section for a lot is marking out YouTube chapters, right? And I might click on my edit index right here and then choose my different markers. I'm going to say all, and then I can export these out, right? Assuming I had titles in here, which we don't see right now because I didn't put any titles, but we can export that out, export edit index, and then we can, create a YouTube chapters document, if you will, from what we get out of the edit index here. So some improvements made to there. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't tell what is brand new, but there's some new things in there. I guess you can see more info in the different columns and stuff like that. So always handy. I use markers all the time in lots of my videos. Another cool thing here is that your clips that you might paste into your timeline. So if I just select one here, it's always going to paste at your playhead. So now if I do paste, Control or Command V, it's going to paste it right at the playhead, whereas that wasn't always the case. If you had an endpoint right there and I had my playhead back here and I pasted it, it would paste it in at the endpoint, which, was up here, but now it's always going to paste at your playhead. And that's, I think, just makes a lot more sense to me. So wherever I put my playhead, that's where I want to paste in a particular clip. I think that works out really well and makes a lot of sense here in the edit page. Couple other little updates here just to note. Menu actions to select nearest in, out, or roll edit points. And you can render in place, and that now supports metadata tags for your file names. So if you've got a lot of stuff going on, you use metadata to tag different files, you can do that now with render in place stuff. So that should just kind of help you stay a little bit more organized. Now this one's kind of cool. If we came to our edit index and we went to the track section here, we can now delete multiple tracks at one time. So let's just say I wanted to delete all those audio tracks. I'm going to right click. We're going to say delete tracks. Boom, they're all gone. Where'd my tracks go? I deleted them all at once. So that's a nice little feature there. If you've got a lot of tracks that you want to get rid of at one time, you can do that, and that works out really well. Another update here is the timeline aspect ratio option when it comes to your safe area overlays here. So in the edit tab, I'll just close my index here. If you wanted to make sure you're staying in, the edges of the frame and you got your safe guides on there, if you come to this little icon right here and you click the drop down, we have social media icons right here. Which are going to just show you where you need to keep your video clips in order to make sure things aren't getting cut off. You've also got the broadcast and film down here. Now, I think this is what they're talking about. I think. I'm not sure. Now, I don't use too many of these most of the time, but you do have these guides here that really just help you make sure nothing's getting cut off and make sure your video clips are all in the right spot. The timeline aspect ratio option is an update for the safe area overlays if you use that. The automatic fusion cache now applies to, where are my effects and templates. So if you came up to your playback menu, you have, where you at, fusion memory cache, you have on and auto. So now that is going to apply to effects and templates. So it just helps things render up in the background. So that way you can play back your video, see it a little bit smoother. And if you've got a little bit of time in between when you're working, Resolve's going to work on that stuff in the background for you. So that comes in real handy. Now this next one I like, and I'll probably make a video about just the audio stuff, but the audio ducker now supports multiple channels as the source. So if I were to select, let's say track number 1 here, I'm going to open my inspector. In the audio section here, we've got the ducker. I'm going to turn that on. We've got sources that we can choose. Let's say I want to choose 11. Oh, and then we have a plus and minus button here. You can click on that, choose another source. Now this is huge because it was a pain in the backside, if I might be quite honest with you, to have to use the side chain and be able to select multiple source tracks. So I assume they were going to add this in, and that works out great. So now my dialogue track right here can react to any of the other tracks that I add in, and I can adjust my duck level right here. Under advanced, it looks like all that's still the same, but the fact that we can now have multiple source channels for the ducker, huge. That's a big win when it comes to audio stuff. Nice job, Blackmagic. Bravo, bravo. When it comes to your audio, we can now access the EQ dynamics and plugins from the audio mixer right here in the edit page. That's another huge one. So if you open up your mixer, here's mine right there, and you can see we've got some effects, EQ and dynamics on audio track 1 here. If I just double click the EQ, it now opens up in the edit page. Huge. It's going to save you time. You don't even got to jump into Fairlight. They're just integrating everything so well here. Same with the dynamics and the effects. Let's see if I click on there. All right, it's not popping open the effects. Does it say we're supposed to do the effects? It says plugins, although the plugins are not opening up there for me. So if I jump over into Fairlight, what plugins do I have on there? I have a multi-band compressor on there for track 1. So that should open up, but it's not. I don't know why, but the EQ works, and I think the plugins are supposed to work, but that's not working. Let's try this track. Yeah, so if I double click on the effects there, that one's not opening. So we might need to check into that a little bit more. But the EQ and the dynamics both open up. That's huge. Love it. Nice job on that, Blackmagic. Another feature here in the Edit tab, multiple video destinations for editing nested clips with Decompose. So it just sounds like you can decompose clips in different spots. I'm going to have to look into that one a little bit more to see exactly what that means. Another option we have here is a menu toggle for track destination for all tracks. So if we come into our timeline menu, track destination right here, you've got all your different destinations. You can select the ones that you want. You also have auto track selector that you can turn on and off right here. And you've got some keyboard shortcuts that are defaulted in there. So those two options are new in this contextual menu here. The next one that's an audio feature here is improved nested timeline audio with native mixes and solo states. So a lot of times you would run into some issues if you had a timeline, you edited your audio, and then you brought that into another timeline. It wouldn't always carry the audio changes through. So it sounds like they fixed that, which is really good, and just allows you to be a little more organized, especially on big projects when it comes to your audio, and making sure that those changes carry through into your active and current timeline that you're working in. Another one, if you work with multicam footage, is improved responsiveness when switching multicam angles. Now, I used to have to adjust my settings a little bit because the multicam stuff was a little taxing on my machine. I don't have, I got an M1 Mac Mini, so I would have to just, use a smaller timeline resolution or whatever, and it would work out fine for me. But if you're using a lot of angles, now there's improved responsiveness with that, which should come in handy for those of you that use multicam footage. You can also now see source audio channels when you're editing your multicam footage. So that's good, just to make sure all your audio is in the right spot and you're getting the proper audio clips that you want to go along with your video as you're switching angles. So you should be able to see that, and that's a nice improvement for multicam editing. Another audio update here is Inspector Trim Slider to trim levels of individual audio channels. So if I were to select one of my clips, you've got your inspector open up here, you go to the file, and now we can see our audio configuration right here, which we've been able to see since version 19, but we can now select each one, and then down here you can adjust the level of it to make it louder or quieter if you want to. You can change it to a mono track, mute one side, not the other, have it come through as mono, but just some extra, ability to work with our audio clips right here in the inspector, and you don't have to jump over into Fairlight. But come on, as the Fairlight guy, I recommend you got to jump over into Fairlight. Come on. All right, anyway. Now you can also, with your audio, if I right-click on the clip and I come to Clip Attributes, there you are. It's also going to give me the option to come to audio, my source channel to none, in case I just don't want anything coming out of that channel. I can set it to none. So that's a new option right there. And the last one here that I've got on the edit page is to be able to match your frame to a source for nested clips. So if you have a clip inside of a clip kind of thing, and you want to match the frame, which comes in super handy if you've got a mismatched audio, you got to get back to the original, line it up. Match frame is an awesome tool here, but now it'll work for nested clips. So that's pretty sweet if you use a lot of nested clips. The next section we're going to hit up is Fairlight, because I love me some audio, so let's check out what's new here in Fairlight. Jumping over to Fairlight, musical notes at the bottom here. Track effects can now be applied to stereo linked tracks. So that's pretty cool, because if you have your mixer open and you've got two tracks linked together as a stereo linked tracks, you can now apply effects to both of them, and that just comes in handy, saves you the trouble of having to do a little extra work there. So that's pretty sweet. Audio tracks can now be duplicated via the contextual menu. So if I right click over here, duplicate track, that's sweet, because let's say I've got some music or some dialogue, I want the same settings, I could just duplicate the track, boom, there's everything the same, you're good to go. So that's a nice addition there. Sweet job, Blackmagic. Ability to disable audio tracks. So again, in the context menu, let's just scroll to the top here. If I right click, come down, we've got, where are you? I just saw you. Disable track. We can just disable the entire track. Maybe you've got a scratch track in there, you've got some extra dialogue or sound effects you're trying out. You could just disable the entire track there instead of having to mute it, and then come back, turn it on and off as you need to. So that's a nice addition as well. This one we already talked about in the edit page, but the ability to delete multiple tracks from the edit index. So in here, you would come to the edit index. I could select multiple tracks using my shift key or your control or command key, and then delete these tracks if I wanted to. I'm not gonna, because I don't want to right now, but you've got the option the same as we do in the edit page. Another cool feature here in Fairlight is the ability to reorder your tracks and buses by just dragging the name in the mixer. So if I look in the mixer here, you have your different names right along here. Now mine don't have any specific names, but let's say I took leaves here. I'm gonna click, hold, and drag, bring it back here. Boom, and now we've got leaves. That's really handy. I like being able to move my tracks around like that instead of having to go into the index, open that up, move things around. That right there is really handy for keeping your audio tracks organized. I like that a lot. A few more upgrades here in Fairlight. Support for trimming from Unity in the mixer. You also have support for new Stereo Direct 7.1.2 and 9.1.4 Dolby formats. So you've got some options there of new things that you can do that are supported. Fine-grained virtual slider adjustments using your Option, Alt, or Shift. So, for example, we always used to be able to do that with our Shift key. So if I just zoom in on a particular clip right here, if I held my Shift key and adjusted the gain line, you could, oh, wrong button there. Here we go, like this. And then I held my Shift key. It allowed us to make finer adjustments. So now there's more things that we can use our Option, Shift, and Alt keys for to be able to do finer adjustments. So that's always comes in handy because sometimes we need those real fine-tuned adjustments. Clear timeline displays. So this is going to be for adjacent waveforms when you're trimming clips, as well as for clip names against clip waveform background. So just to make it a little bit clearer, you can see we've got a little background on our text there. I always thought it was easy to read, so I don't think, to me that doesn't matter, but it's kind of cool that they did that. And I guess where the clips would come together, you can see the waveforms a little bit better if you zoom in there. So all right, improvements, I like that, just to kind of make things a little bit clearer as you're working with your audio. You also got a clearer display, it says, when resizing the tracks. So I think that's just a UI improvement there, so it looks a little bit clearer for you. I'm liking that. The playhead indicator in the scroll bar. So I'm assuming that's down here, scroll bar. Yep, there's the playhead indicator. I guess that was not in Fairlight before. I don't know, I never really noticed. But now we've got that, so you know where you're at in your overall timeline. That's pretty cool. You've also got a mono channel selection for a clip in the clip context menu. So if I were to right click on a clip, I should be able to change this to a mono clip. Where is it? Without going into, I'm assuming without going into clip attributes, although I don't see that here. I'm gonna have to look into that and see how you do that, but that's what that sounds like is separate track. Oh, I'm sorry, mono channel selection from the clip context menu or the inspector. So, I mean, if I have that clip selected and I come to the inspector, audio section, I don't see where I can change it there, but if I come to file, down here, stereo, I can do custom, and then I could just change it to mono there. I guess it's the same thing as opening clip attributes. I'm probably missing something. There's probably a better way to do it that I'm just missing there. So I'm gonna look into that and we'll get back to you on that. Now also we have separate track groups panel accessible via the header icon. And I did notice this right away. Right up here we've got groups. So if you group your tracks into, different groups to work with them in different ways, you can now just open that up. You'll see all your groups real quick. You don't have to jump into a menu or anything like that. Now the other thing I did notice if I scroll down here is right here we've got an immersive option in our mixer. Now, I'm not sure if that is related to the support for new Stereo Direct 7.1.2 and Dolby audio formats. I'm not sure if it's related to that. I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more there. But I did notice that that's brand new there. And if we just click on our three little dots, is there anything else popping up that's new here? No, everything else looks pretty much the same there. So new little thing in the mixer there, but some really cool features here when it comes to your audio. I'll probably have a whole separate video about this stuff too when it comes to the audio because love me some audio, love Fairlight. Even though we can do a lot in the edit page now, here's some cool updates from Fairlight. Now, when it comes to Fusion, I'm not a huge Fusion guy, but I know some of my friends out there are. Casey, Patrick, lots of you other guys out there and girls, all Fusion, aficionados. But let me just run through some of the things that are updated in case you haven't seen it yet. New UExport tool to export USD scenes from compositions. USD, is that US dollars? I'm not really sure as a non-Fusion expert here. Field dominance changes are honored in interlaced media inputs. Polygon and B-spline viewer toolbar controls for multi-poly tool. New switch and use switch to manage the keyframe, and keyframe multiple inputs. OCIO display transforms can now be applied with a tool. OCIO CDL transforms can now be used as view LUTs. Support for USD 24.08 with improved Material X performance. Fusion compositions in the media pool can now use IntelliTrack. Okay, so IntelliTrack, that's the where it'll automatically pan the audio for you. as, you know, something's moving across your screen. Improve performance with multiple and long paintbrush options, or operations, sorry. And support for freeze frame with time speed. Now, a lot of that's a foreign language to me, but if you work in Fusion, you probably know what all that stuff is, and I'm sure it's probably pretty good. So that's Fusion for you. Now, when it comes to the color page, I am a little more adept to the color page, do work in there a little bit more, but here's just a rundown of some of the things in the color page. We've got dedicated mini panel controls to edit custom curve points and control points. So if you've got that mini panel, you've got some updates there for that. That mini panel does look pretty sweet, if I'm being honest. I'd like to try that out. You can copy active node stack layer from timeline clips in the gallery. You've got the ability to set default qualifier modes for new clips. The ability to export stills with Dolby Vision tone mapping. You've also got post group clip node stack layer option in the project settings. And then you've got per user option for changed node color in the node operations node options menu. It's kind of, you know, it's a little tricky to read some of this sometimes. So bear with me, apologize. We have the ability to filter timeline clips by node color. Sorry, sometimes I flip words. By node color. Object mask caches persist until manually reset or reanalyzed. I like that. Input and output tooltips for splitter, combiner, and matte nodes. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, when it comes to our Resolve effects, so in your effects library there, you've got some Resolve effects. Couple updates there, new grain controls for Resolve FX sky replacement. So you've got some new tools in there. New saturation and gamma controls for the Resolve effect light rays. I like the light rays. I do use that from time to time. And the ability to set per channel settings for blur effects. So there's some new updates to some of the Resolve effects that you've got in there in your effects library. Couple more things in the deliver page here. Jumping into deliver here in DaVinci Resolve. Here is what we've got in there. We can drag to reorder render jobs in the render queue. So if you've got several jobs like I do in the queue, I can drag it down and rearrange it. I like that. Like, why would we not have that option, right? Let me stay organized and put things in the order that I need them. That's a nice feature to have. You've also got now support for encoding MVHEVC spatial video on Mac. I don't know what that is, spatial video on Mac, although I'm on a Mac, but not sure exactly what that is. You can encode Sony MXF opt1A to XD cam drives on Mac and Windows. You can go encode H.265 main 10 formats in Resolve on Windows. AV1 encodes in DaVinci Resolve with NVIDIA acceleration now. You've got an option to render without timecode for mobile uploads to YouTube. Render settings now default to timeline resolution and timeline frame rate. That's handy in case you forget to change it. It's just going to default to whatever your timeline is. That's sweet. You can decode and encode EXR standard metadata attributes and the P2 viewer compatibility for Panasonic P2 renderers. So that's kind of what's new there in the deliver page. Now you've got some scripting API stuff that changed, which I'm not all that familiar with. I'll just throw it on the screen here. Here's a couple things that got updated with that. And lastly, there's some general improvements, right? Just overall, all around improvements here in Resolve. And they're a little something like this. We've got dual screen layouts now allow secondary screen resizable windows. So everybody's always wanting to move around windows in Resolve. I want to put one over here. I want to do over there. I want multiple clips, multiple windows, multiple monitors. So this sounds like you've got a little bit more flexibility there. So maybe that'll help some of you guys out that want to move things around a little bit more and change sizes. You've got improved toolbar and application menu layouts on Windows. I'm not a Windows guy. I work on a Mac, so I don't know nothing about that. Search menu actions from the help menu in Windows and Linux. Again, you Windows and Linux folks. Notification support when users join or leave multi-user projects. Application menu actions to go to previous or next timeline, open and close. The inspector metadata by clicking on the header. DCTL support color picker, reset buttons, and randomizer controls. DCTL transforms now have alpha control support. The ability to view DCTL, build errors, expiry dates and control tooltips, and general performance and stability improvements. So Resolve is just always getting better. Blackmagic is hard at work behind the scenes. Now, I don't know any inside of, what's going on over there. I kind of wish I did. That would be cool, but I don't. I find out stuff when you guys do, but there's just so much stuff in here. There's even some things I didn't cover in here. Just tried to run through all this stuff real quick here. I'm going to throw this out as a podcast too, so you can listen to it while you're, driving to work or something like that too. But a lot of good stuff in here. I'm going to dig into it a little bit more as the days go on here, especially the audio stuff, because I'm your go-to audio guy here, right? We got to talk audio. So that is the major updates here in DaVinci Resolve 19.1. Blackmagic, thanks so much, man. You guys rock. Love you guys, always coming out with new stuff, and I'm sure you've got some more awesome stuff in the works for future versions of DaVinci Resolve here. So, if you have questions about something and you don't have time to look into it, drop a comment down below. I'm happy to look into it, check it out for you guys, make videos about this stuff, report back, and really just do my best to make your job easier of just getting in there and editing some videos, because honestly, who wants to read through all the stuff sometimes, right? The manuals, the papers, the updates. I don't know, you'd probably rather watch a video about it, right? And so would I. So that's why I watch some of my friends here on YouTube talking about some of the updates. So quick rundown, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace. Let's finish up this coffee here. This is like my third coffee. You'd think I would have had more because, man, I was talking fast through this stuff, but there's so much to get through. I don't want you guys to be here for hours, right? I had to turn on the jersey. I had to turn up the jersey a little bit and, crank through these things here. So, but appreciate you guys. Appreciate all you guys. Appreciate BlackMagicDesign. All right, I'm going to go edit this so I get this out for you guys. Peace.